Hey, welcome and good morning. It's Pastor Mark. I want to take a second and just welcome you to Christ Community Chapel, the Aurora campus. I hope that there are some of you today who are saying, maybe this is my first time ever. I want to extend a special welcome to you. In fact, if you would take a second, just go ahead and text 474747 with the word Aurora. So Aurora to 474747. That will let us know that you were here and allow us to reach out and welcome you even more. Just like Pastor Todd did last week, I also want to thank you for the faithfulness that you have expressed through the discipline of giving. It's part of our worship, but normally we give when we're all physically together. You have continued to give using the online tools virtually, and it is incredible. It has been generous, and it is the way that the gospel continues to go forth from this church. So thank you. We have something kind of special planned for you today. I want you to join Aaron now as he leads us in worship.
I want to see Jesus lifted high. 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 Oh, I want to see Jesus lifted high. I want to see Jesus lifted high. Though I may suffer for a while, I have a hope that's undefiled. I see the part but not the whole. I know this world is not my home. I want to see Jesus lifted high. I want to see Jesus lifted high. Oh, I want to see Jesus lifted high. I want to see Jesus lifted high. Higher and higher. I only have one hope to hold, where sin is crushed and hearts unfold. This King who died and took my place, he stood and walked out of the grave. Yes, he stood and walked out of the grave. I want to see Jesus lifted high. I want to see Jesus lifted high. Oh, I want to see Jesus lifted high. I want to see Jesus lifted high. Oh, you get the last word. You always do. You know the best way. You always move, you have the best heart. You always will be lifted high. You get the last word. You always do, you know the best way. You wanna see Jesus lifted high. Oh, I wanna see Jesus lifted high. 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 Oh, you get the last word. You always do. You know the best way. You always move. You have the best heart. You always will be lifted high.
I really am glad again to see you today. It is hard to believe we have made it to December 27th. It is the end of the year. Or like some people like to say, it feels like March 391st, right? Wow, what a year it's been. Our practice at CCC has been usually the last Sunday of the year. We take that time, and what we focus on is baptism and communion, the Lord's table and baptism. Those are the two ordinances, the orders, the commands that Jesus gave us. And we spend an extra amount of time in those. But this has been, as you know well, an incredibly unique year. And because we are gathering virtually, obviously we couldn't do our baptism or our communion. But what I thought would be kind of cool is to talk to some of the folks who have been part of our church all year long. And to really reflect back, kind of a year in review as we think through some of the uniqueness of this year. And just so you know, I want you to know, I asked them, I said, yeah, let's talk about what's been difficult, but God redeems all times. There is not time that God doesn't use in our lives to build character, to bring perseverance, to create hope. And one of the things that I think you're going to enjoy the most as you listen to these families and to these testimonies and stories is as you hear how even in the midst of difficulty, we got the chance to experience the grace of God together, and we got a chance to continue to be the church. So I hope you will enjoy today. And I look forward to gathering again very soon with you. God bless you and Happy New Year.
All right. Hello, I'm Tyson Cromings, and this is my lovely wife, Lori. And we're originally from Texas. We moved to Ohio about 9 years ago, and we've enjoyed being CCC members since we moved here.
Hi, my name is Susan Henthorn. I have lived in Aurora most of the last 40 years. I was married for over 37 years to a great guy named Steve, and I lost him in 2011.
All right, we're Todd and Jillian Ionetta, and we have 3 kids. Reese is 11, Griffin's 9, and Kenzie is 7. And we are actually in the midst of an adoption journey, looking to add a 4th. So that's us.
So obviously, Andrew is he works at Progressive, and he is a software developer. And I am a homeschool mom. We have 4 girls, and Scarlett is the eldest; she's 7, and then Juliet is 4.5, and then Marigold is 3, and Elaine is almost 1, actually.
I want this. Ella es Keila. Mi esposa es Keila.
Mhm.
Christine Maker.
Yep, my name's Monty Montes, and this is my wife, Kayla Christine Fenstermaker. He's very thorough because he's used to having to be able to say all of those words for green card appointments. So, yep, one day I will officially legally change my name to Montes. So we are the Montes family.
Okay. Hello, we're the Normal family. My name's Mike. This is my wonderful wife, Kelly. We've been in Ohio 21 years. And
so I am Brock, and this is Hannah. We're the Thompsons. We have 3 boys, Byron, Reed, and Peter, 7, 6, 4.
Mhm.
You know, working for CVS Pharmacy, I kind of saw the writing on the wall and knew what was coming because we were having meetings 3 or 4 times a day about how we were going to run our pharmacies, about how we were going to treat patients. So I knew what was coming. And to be quite honest, it didn't phase me until it happened. I guess I would say most people call me a people person. I like the people interaction, and to be totally cut off from the world is both. It kind of gets you on the inside, but at the same time, it makes you appreciate being around your family and the simple things like that. So I was scared. I'll be quite honest, and I was fearful about what would happen and what would this do to not only our family but our community.
Well, I think that something I've thought about is that the idea that how broken the world is, and how much I'm seeing people hurting, and people, and the sickness, and the dying, and all these things that are just so heavy and so heartbreaking. I think that, if I'm honest, for many years, or maybe, I mean, I've grown up in the church, so I've had this idea that, like, Jesus is going to come back, and what's that going to look like, and how's this going to go, and, like, feeling kind of nervous about that. And truthfully, in the last year, I think that something that the brokenness has brought me to a place where I truly, I long for heaven, and I long for, and that's like something that, not that I haven't longed for heaven, but just like, Jesus, come back soon. Like, this is such a mess. And just really seeing that, and just like the obviousness that, like, this world is really, truly not made for us, and hasn't, or the way that it is now is not the way it should be. And we are living in a broken system. So we're going to have broken things happen all the time.
Mike came home for work. So that kind of changed the dynamic of our house a little bit, creating a workspace for him. Our daughter Holly's job went on furlough, and then universities went online. So it was a very concentrated amount of time together as a family. So you learn how to exist together, and everybody's not out doing their own thing. So more meals together, more family time together. So not that we didn't have family time, but it was a little more concentrated.
Hey,
so here's the real answer. Okay. So in my job, I work for Nestle now, Drivers Grand Ice Cream, and I traveled about 40 to 42 weeks a year. So Kelly and Holly were used to Monday through Friday, not have to worry about me or needs or stuff like that. That's a massive change. And that 45 weeks was for the last 20 years. So big change for them. Great for me, because I get to spend more time with the family.
Well, because of our personal convictions with COVID-19, we kind of knew how we wanted to operate inside of our household with in the pandemic. And so this summer, we thought long and hard and prayed for a long time on whether or not to send our children to school or homeschool them. So we ended up homeschooling them, which has been a tremendous joy and challenge at the same time. It's a joy because it's so rewarding to be able to see your children learn. and to be with them for this, what we're calling a bonus year because of their ages. So they would have mostly been off to school by now, but because they're so little, this is like another bonus year of preschool with them at home. But it's been a challenge because we both work. And so that's been really uniquely challenging with mom's attention being outside of the home. So we tried for a season, right? All the fall. And we've just come to realize that it's time for mom's attention fully to be back home, which is really, truly bittersweet. So I have to step back from my position at CCC. And it's, like I said, it's so bittersweet because I love that job, but truly I love the job of being a mother even more. So that's been one of the biggest challenges for us.
I mean, I think it's funny. We were talking about this the other day in our community group, that just in my reflection a little bit on this year was like, if you would have told us that, you know, like this stay at home situation, I would have said, wow, we're going to have so much free time on our hands. And it doesn't necessarily feel like that for some reason. Like there's a lot of like, I don't know, extra ceremony around different things and stuff like that. And maybe just having 4 kids, I don't know. So, and just like lots of, lots of heaviness, I think that has just gone on this year, you know, with everything, with pandemic and social justice and just everything. So for us, we've spent a lot of time together, I think, just being with each other. And I think just like not being afraid to just have like just really, I guess, deep conversations about like, how do you feel about this? Like, how, you know, like, how are we going to parent our kids through this? How are, you know, what's your thoughts on this? What's my thoughts on this?
I miss social activities with friends. I miss time with my out of town family. Those sorts of things. The relationships are different this year. I think that the toughest part of the year in general, from my viewpoint, has been the fear and anxiety and insecurity. It has led to some of the worst divisiveness I have ever seen in my life.
I think it kind of slowed everything down. You know, everything kind of came to a halt. We'd been pretty busy. Our kids were in lots of activities, and all of a sudden that just stopped. And at first it was really kind of nice. We enjoyed it. But yeah, if you want to share.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, you know, it does, it slows you down and makes you actually be a little more introspective about life in general. And so that's one of the things we noticed is we had such busy schedules with kids in sports and with, you know, being in full-time ministry. We both were in ministry together and it was nonstop. So all of a sudden it's like we've got time on our hands, and it made us realize that, number one, we were probably running a little too hard. Mm-hmm. And so as we've gotten back into things, we've reprioritized a little bit. But also, I think one of the things that happened is that we started thinking about a couple things. One is we had time to think about what do we want the next 10 to 15 years to look like in our lives. And then also, you know, with COVID, you start thinking about how short life is. You know, you deal with seeing people lose their lives in these kind of pandemics. And so all that combined made us pray about what do we want we want to make the next 10, 15 years really count. And actually it's the very thing that made us start thinking about this opportunity in Aurora.
Pues sorprendente han sido muchas las cosas, desde vivir como parejas, tener el trabajo, el proceso de la green card y todo eso. Ha sido muchas cosas increíbles en mi vida.
There's been a lot of incredible things in my life. Learning to live together as a couple and getting to live together as a couple after 3,000 miles of distance between us for the first more than year of our dating relationship and engaged relationship. So that's been good to have time together. One of my favorite stories of a joy of this year is one Thursday afternoon after Monty had his work permit at that point and was eager to start working, but I was really overwhelmed at the idea of having to find a job for him. I didn't know how to look for a job for Monty in the best of times, let alone in the middle of the craziness. This was in May of this year. So layoffs and furloughs and everyone is in a rough spot. And I was just really wanting to help him but didn't know how and was really overwhelmed by that. And one Thursday afternoon while I was working from home, he walked inside and said, "Well, I got a job." and at this point, Monty couldn't drive. He didn't have his license. And so I was like, what? He was doing yard work at our house and made friends with the landscapers next door. And they offered him a job on the spot and said, "Do you want to come with us now?" He said, "I should talk to my wife, but I'll see you tomorrow morning." So I love that story. It was definitely a bright spot in this year.
Seeing people come together and helping each other in times of strife was really kind of cool. Seeing people be able to adapt to each other was really neat because of the fact that there was so many different areas that people had to help each other out. Families, if they were not able to get together, they were able to adapt to help each other in different areas. Neighbors helping each other, friends helping each other, cross country, being able to send each other things and things like that. Where I think that was really a great way and a joy to be able to see each other do things like that. So
I think a joy is that one of the things that I'm very privileged to do is to serve on Edge and Porch with our youth group. And I really thought when a lot of this happened that it would just die because you see the junior high and high schoolers, like you think, how much do they come for God and how much do they come because they get to socialize, right? And it didn't really change. Whether we were doing it via Zoom, whether we were doing it, meeting 6 feet apart in a parking lot or around a bonfire way far away from each other, they always came and they always were on fire for God and to talk. It wasn't about the socializing. They missed learning about and interacting about God. And I'll be honest with you, I used to come home every Wednesday night and Sunday night and just like grab my heart and say, I'm glad that that God is bringing them in together and they can still interact together to be young Christians.
Yeah, so you guys know we're on an adoption journey, and back in May, after over a year of waiting, we matched with a birth mom, and end of May we went to Detroit for a second. I forgot where. And baby had been born. I got to hold the baby and care for the baby for about almost 24 hours, and then birth mom changed her mind. And that's a whole story in and of itself. We'd love to share more later. But I think one thing that God has taught me through that, and just through this last year, is his faithfulness, which might sound funny because it didn't end the way we wanted it to. But he's brought to mind to me lately in Psalm 103, where David talks about how God can redeem your life from the pit. And God has just kind of brought to mind over the last year all the times in my life where I've been in that pit. And I can see now how he's redeemed that. Now, right now, we haven't seen yet. The adoption story is not over yet. So we don't know how he's going to redeem that. But one thing that I can be confident is that he will, because he's faithful. And so while this has been a really stretching year for us, I think it's been one where we've grown in trusting his faithfulness and his plan. And so for that, I'm grateful for this year, even though it's been hard.
The good things that we notice, your neighborhood, I know our neighborhood there's so many bikers and walkers and people running like we've never seen before. We've met more neighbors this year than ever before because they're home and because we're home. And that's not usual. Usually there's soccer and other things to get to. So in a sense, that slowing down has brought many blessings for sure. And also there's, it helps you notice things, maybe, I used to have an old car, an old Toyota Corolla, and it had needed a lot of work, and I would turn up the radio so I didn't have to listen to all the brake noises and the lack of the catalytic converter. And it's turned down the radio silence so we can listen for those squeaks in our lives, whether it be spiritually or family or our marriage or with our kids, what have you. You can't just ignore those.
It's expose them.
It's exposed.
Yeah.
I have seen, I have more time for reflection, and I have been fortunate that I have still been able to go places this summer because state parks are big, and I've gone with the family in camping in an RV, and it's the perfect thing to be able to have physical distancing and still feel like you're getting away. So that has been a real blessing.
I remember growing up, my dad every night at 5:30 would come home and we would have dinner. It didn't matter, based on his job, punched the clock, came home at 5:30. And since the pandemic, we basically have dinner at 5:30 every day. And this is the fun one. And the TV sits off to the side, and Family Feud is on. So we watch, a couple episodes of that every night. But as simple as that is, but the joy of that, and at least for me, reminded me of as a kid knowing that was going to happen every night, and sharing the day, and especially all the craziness going on. That was a blessing to have that.
Yes.
My worth is not in what I own, not in the strength of flesh and bone, but in the costly wounds of love at the cross. My worth is not in skill or name, in win or lose, in pride or shame, but in the blood of Christ that flowed at the cross. I rejoice in my Redeemer, greatest treasure, wellspring of my soul, and I will trust in him no other. My soul is satisfied in him alone. I will not boast in wealth or might, in human wisdom's fleeting light, but I will boast in knowing Christ at the cross. Oh, I rejoice in my Redeemer, greatest treasure, wellspring of my soul, and I will trust in him no other. My soul is satisfied. I rejoice in my Redeemer, greatest treasure, wellspring of my soul, and I will trust in him my worth and my unworthiness, my value fixed, my ransom paid at the cross. Oh, I rejoice in my Redeemer, greatest treasure, wellspring of my soul, and I will trust in him, no other. Our soul is satisfied in him alone. My soul is satisfied in him alone.
Hey, as is our practice, I want to send you out because it's time to go and be the church. Have the eyes to see that God gives you the people who are in your lives who need to be encouraged, need to be strengthened, need fellowship, or need to hear the amazing news of Christ. Let me send you out with this benediction. Now may the grace of our Lord Jesus, the love of God, the Father, the constant fellowship of the Holy Spirit, rest and abide upon each one of you until we shall meet again, or until our Savior comes, and then forever. Go and have a great week in Christ.